Welcome to Charts Today Europe. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 17th of October, comes to you from London. And US markets recovering quite strongly last night, so that's setting the backdrop for Europe this morning. We're seeing the dollar is actually just up slightly, looking like it's going to make a short-term transition into bullish. Looking at the euro, we see the euro just starting to weaken against the dollar on the back of that. And if we look at the yen, which we normally see the dollar yen rate being the lead indicator, we're already through to bullish. So we're bullish on all three time frames there. Sterling jumped yesterday, and we're now in bullish territory short term against the dollar, and medium term turning bullish, and long term the lagging line finding support. So sterling looking better all the time. We've got good upside targets to the 134 area. So despite the Brexit, we are seeing sterling strengthening, and that's also happening against the euro. We're seeing here sterling looking stronger there as well. Against the Swiss franc, we're seeing sterling also looking stronger. And against the Aussie dollar, just weaker there. So stronger dollar on the short term is having an impact. Bitcoin down 0.5%, really still struggling there, and been sideways now for a good few months, so making it quite difficult to trade. US stocks really jumped yesterday. The S&P was up 2%, the Nasdaq was up 3%. The key thing we have to now worry about is the failure to make a new high. If we make a lower high and then a lower low, that would be the signs that we're turning into a new bear market. That's what we have to watch for. The Dow looking strong in the bounce as well, and the Russell index also bouncing off the low. The futures actually climbing this morning now, so the S&P future up 0.2%, the Nasdaq E-mini up 0.1%. Still a little bit early to say, but it looks like the US market will hold its strength and open higher this morning. And taking a look at the UK index, we're seeing it up 0.3%, still looking pretty bearish on the charts, both long, medium and short-term charts, all bearish. We do have good long upside targets on the point and figure charts, but we do have downside targets here as well, so quite significant there. Mid caps in the UK not up as strongly this morning, staging a recovery up 0.17%, but still looking pretty bearish there. Again, no clear downside targets, but no upside targets to play for either. In Germany, the DAX is up 1.7%, so looking stronger there for sure. But again, these charts looking pretty bearish on all three time frames. Here I'm running on real-time data coming in from Metastock or Thomson Reuters Icon, same thing. Just depending on whether you're a professional or private user. Looking at the DAX up 1.8%, and we saw just overnight Japan up 1.4%. The big one still concerning us is the Chinese market. Struggled to make, it was up 0.6%, which is relatively weak for the region. The Hang Seng index was actually flat, but what's interesting here still is these downside targets on the Chinese market. Brent crude is up 0.16% this morning, starting to make a short-term transition to bullish. WTI also much the same picture, of course. US nat gas holding quite steady at 3.2%, and looking at gold holding the gains that we saw earlier in the week, so at the end of last week. So gold sitting around this 1223 mark this morning, and silver also just holding its short-term bullish trend. US 10-year yield sitting pretty steady now at 3.15%. We've been there for about a week. We've dampened into a sort of no move, so it's likely that we're going to see a jump to the upside at some point. We've got 329, 322, and the Bund German bonds actually looking stronger this morning, and waiting for UK inflation numbers. Taking a look at the stocks, just taking a quick look at the Nasdaq performance last night. We had some very strong performers. Adobe up 9%, so that's an amazing trend still carrying on there. Lots of stocks recovering. Apple still looking very strong, outperforming the market, so on 24%. This is relative to the Dow at 100, so there's a relative strength. This data all coming from Yahoo Finance, so just giving us daily data, delayed by 15 minutes, of course, but it's a good free data source. And looking at Apple here, we're seeing that looking strong. Taking a look at some of the other stocks, Amazon up 3.35%. Google still lagging and looking a little bit worrying there. Facebook did recover quite strongly, up 3.4%, but the chart still looks very worrying. We've underperformed the Dow by 16% this year. Has really never recovered from this sell-off, and that's weighing over the share price. Taking a look at some of the others, Tesla up 6.45%. Looking at Netflix, strong numbers from Netflix overnight. That's looking stronger again. Has outperformed the market some 65% this year, and Microsoft also looking strong, continuing its uptrend and outperforming the market some 24%. Looking at the FTSE 100 this morning, these prices just coming in now, and if we take a look at the best performers, Pearson, they were in the leaders yesterday, so we're seeing some strength there. We're still bearish on that short term. We've outperformed the Dow some 5%, so that's quite impressive. Most UK companies not. Here comes some live updates coming in. Looking at some of the other performers, Financial, Scottish Mortgage Investment Company, Hargreaves Lansdown looking pretty strong as well. Sage, which has been a poor performer over the year, some 30% underperforming the Dow, with downside targets still hanging over us in lots of these charts. Is up quite sharply this morning, but really is very much a counter trend move. Taking a look in the other direction, these are the stocks falling. We've got Barclay Group down 3%, so its woes continuing, underperforming the market here. We're seeing some 75% under, it's only performing 75% to the Dow, so really looking weaker there. And taking a look, it's really Housbuilders seem to be down this morning. Persimmon down there, Taylor Wimpey, Barrett. So we're seeing a theme really, the house builders being the lower, some of the stocks lower, Tesco's as well, but noting that a lot of these stocks looking pretty bearish. Just taking a quick look at Europe, we see here, this is the Euro stocks is one of the lists in Updata. So it's quite a good way just to see what's happening in Europe. Pearson's actually pretty high up on the leaderboard there. And if we look at the stocks falling in Europe, we have still got some pretty big ones. Mediclinic, medical care stocks. So we're seeing quite a lot of that where stocks falling are some down some 13-12%. So still some pretty big fallers despite the recovery. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.